So let's also take a quick look at the dollar index with just a few minutes to go here. What does the dollar index want to see? The dollar index wants to see, for higher prices, it would want to see PPI come in hot to match up with yesterday's hot CPI. This is something we see very often, like following a CPI report, you get like a bit of a consolidation, simply waiting for that producer price index number. So dollar index is trending higher here ahead of the report. Let's see if that follows through. We've got just 2 minutes to go before the producer price index numbers come out. These are your wholesale prices, and they are, of course, an important indicator of inflation in the economy. We are forecasting here. Let's see. Let's do. Make sure we pull this up here in time. Producer price index numbers forecasting for 3.2%. Previously was at 3.2% or 3.3. So we're expecting a decline in producer price index numbers. We can pull up our indicator here. You can see last time around we had a cool PPI print, but then preceding that we had 3 red prints, which would signal higher than expected or hot inflation. So we had 3 hot inflation prints. We had a cool one last time. Are we going to get another cool inflation print or a hot one? We're going to see that in just a second. That will tell us a little bit more about the inflation story and possibly confirm or deny, I guess, the move that we saw yesterday in the CPI. So we've got that coming out here in just under a minute here, guys. We've got about 40 seconds to go. On the screen right now, I've got stocks over here, gold, dollar, Bitcoin, oil. There is a little bit of everything on the screen for you. Should see PPI hit the number in just a second. All right, an initial move higher for stocks, blipped higher. Now a mixed reaction here. Look at that, big spike up and then complete reversal. Gold slightly lower on this. Let's see what the number came in at. 3.5%. Inflation, 3.5% compared to 3.2%. Core coming in at 3.6 compared to 3.3. Yet again, confirming, I would say, yesterday's concerns about inflation. Interestingly, not seeing a huge move on the dollar. I would actually have expected a little bit more to the upside here. Stocks did a complete 180. Look at that. This is, again, why you have to be very careful trading news spikes. A lot of people love to do that. I personally find that to be the ultimate form of gambling, because at the end of the day, news spikes can be so violent and orders can just get like ricocheted off and completely reversed. So really dangerous. Unemployment also worth noting. Let's take a look at that. You had jobless claims here came in 213K versus 215K. Let's see what else. Oh, let's see. Pull up Forex Factory. It's a little simpler for some of the employment data. Okay, so this came in pretty much in line with expectations. But yes, overall, PPI, I would give it a slightly hotter than expected read here, causing a little bit of market uncertainty. You've got, so far, stocks pretty unchanged from that report. NASDAQ down about 0.2% today. Same with the S&P 500. Russell, 0.3%. Gold holding on tight to the little gains that it has today, 0.22%. Silver down about 0.2% as well. Copper up about 0.5%. Natural gas up 4%. Bitcoin down 2%. Ethereum down 3%. Dollar index, again, crawling back a little bit here from its lows, but noticeably stocks now taking on a little bit of water here. NASDAQ down a little bit more. I mean, these are not huge moves, though. We're not talking about 1% swings or anything like that. You're talking about a slight move lower here for stocks. Let's switch over to kind of a full chart here for a second.
Market analysis, free trading courses, edge finder data, and special offers. What do these things all have in common? They're all available for you right now inside of our free Discord. You can click the link down in the description below to join the free Discord today and get access to all of this and more. Stay up to date with all the latest trading information and A1 content. And if you want to upgrade to our Gold VIP Discord that features every single trade that Trader Nick and our other professional analysts take, you can find the links for that in the description as well. So don't wait, go check out the free Discord today.
So yeah, dollar index, just holding steady at support here. Nothing, again, I think that the story here for dollar, the trick here is that yes, you've got inflation hot, but what may make people a little uncertain is the growth data has not been there. It's not been as attractive as perhaps it was a month ago. Let's also take a look at bond yields here this morning. Interesting. Bond yields, I guess they're climbing, but actually moved lower here initially. Same thing with, here's the 20-year, 2-year. Stocks now regaining some ground. Russell's up 0.5% now. Yeah, really mixed response. Gold and silver are slightly back in the green. What does this mean for Bitcoin? Bitcoin just doesn't look super attractive right now. Rising inflation, slowing growth, for me, that's not an environment for Bitcoin. You want to talk about Bitcoin's environment? You want to probably see Goldilocks is the environment where Bitcoin would do well. Cooling inflation, solid growth. That's where you want to be long Bitcoin. That's when I was long Bitcoin, was when we were in the Goldilocks scenario at the turn of the year, right? But I think we've switched slightly more towards not necessarily full-blown stagflation, but we might be leaning towards that direction. So I don't want to get caught with a huge long position on Bitcoin going into that. Again, higher inflation and slower growth is an environment that is no fun for consumers, and consumers are the ones who a lot of times are the one, getting all the hype up for Bitcoin. So for me, it's like, okay, if Bitcoin is, if we're in a more stagflation-y type, slowing type, just not super exciting economic environment, then I'm not going to short Bitcoin, but I'm certainly not going to be like full port long Bitcoin, till I die. That's not what we do on this channel. We track the macro and we focus mostly on what this shows you. So what is this going to look like today? PPI year over year is going to come in, and once this updates, it's not yet updated. This is yet again going to be one more red indicator on the screen here. What does that tell you? This heat map is so powerful. It is so important to focus on, because when this flips red, that will put us at the vast majority of our indicators on this screen printing red, showing inflation is rising, growth is not as exciting as it was forecasted to be. This is all based on forecasts versus actual data. This is if you pull up your Forex factory and you track one, like that is perfectly fine. This is for macro traders. If you are more advanced, if you are trying to actually understand what's happening in the markets from a macroeconomics perspective, a tool like this is for actual serious traders that are interested in that, right? Because at the end of the day, if you want to track, if you're only focused on one indicator today, you're missing the rest of them. You have to look at indicators like this as a collective. That's the whole point of this page. You can't just look at inflation without looking at growth. You can't just look at growth without looking at inflation. You can't look at just interest rates. You've got to look at the collective, similar to how the Fed does. Why do people focus on fundamental analysis? Well, it's because the Fed is the most market moving thing in our time. What Jerome Powell has to say and what the Fed does, it impacts everything. Let's maybe start with the elephant in the room, I guess the dollar index. Marco, why don't you go first? Dollar index. What's your thoughts on this one right now?
So for the DXY, just a quick technical analysis, technical breakdown. For me, this overall strength has paused a little bit right here. So we have had a little bit of flat price action, so nothing much happening. But we did have CPI, which was a bit unexpected. It flagged inflation, so possibly the next Fed meeting will be a bit hawkish, and that should raise the value of the US dollar. So this chart fundamentally could go up. The technicals are telling me that we're again in a bit of a pause, but still the overall trend is up, in my personal opinion, on this daily chart. So if I combine the technicals and the fundamentals, I would say that I'm bullish on the DXY, and I would expect more dollar strength. I don't know what the hell could the Fed do, except raise interest rates. I think it's just inevitable for them, and to be more hawkish in their overall stance, which is indeed going to push the markets up. So, and this kind of also fits in with the narrative. Not the last Fed meeting, but the one before was a bit more, let's say, dovish, if I remember that correctly. So we kind of paused like this, and this trend may then continue after this little bit of a pause. So that's the DXY. Is it good for me? Yeah, it's pretty good for my dollar pairs, because then I'm gonna get a nice downtrend. So this downtrend could possibly continue on my dollar pairs. Right now, that is kind of the reason why I'm not getting any opportunities right now, because we're just a little bit too corrective. So I would like to see that overall downtrend to continue and some nice momentum, because I execute on the 1 hour, and the 1 hour is currently very, very choppy. So yeah, that kind of it for dollar pairs.
Yeah, no, and again, the prospect now has become more interesting, this dynamic of, if you see inflation continue to rise, there's a possibility that the Fed may actually entertain the idea of rate hikes. I don't think it's incredibly likely right now, or the bond market certainly doesn't think so, but it could happen if you continue to see inflation come in like we have this week, with both PPI and CPI coming in higher than expected. Yeah, dollar index been kind of flat around this 107.8 level. Miko, what do you think? Dollar index and any favorite currency pairs with the dollar in them? What are you currently watching?
So yeah, dollar, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Past a few days, as Marcus touched upon, is pretty much consolidating there. So the overall trend for me is still bullish. I still do expect more upside, still a very clear uptrend, as we can see higher highs and higher lows. So that's what keeps me bullish in terms of my bias. And if I go to the weekly chart, as I've touched on before, we had a really big 2-year range with prices still trading outside of. So I'm still looking at this as a breakout. As long as that remains so, I do think we'll still see higher prices. If we break below, I'll probably relook to change that bias. But on the lower time frames, I do have a shorter term bearish bias. We had a really big drop a couple of weeks ago, and I'm looking to see if price can come back and retest that low. It's only more of a temporary bias I'm looking at. As I said, long term, I'm still bullish for now. So I'm actually trading pound USD, see if I can take advantage of that move. And so far have had a bit of upside. My target is pretty much the high, so it's not really like a bigger swing trade. It's more of a shorter, medium term trade, if you will. It's pretty much tested the high, so I will look to close potentially in the next few hours if that momentum does continue, but we've pretty much hit the target. But funny enough, once I do close the trade, I actually will be looking to see if I can get to some sales for pound USD. As we get back to the highs here, I'll look to see if I can catch that next lower high. Still for pound, the very confident bearish trend we have here. So I do still see that continuing. So pound USD looks good for some shorts, but I want to see if we can push a little bit higher up and then maybe find some entries later on.
Yeah, no, I like the pound dollar and euro dollar kind of bearish outlook for me personally as well. I also have a dollar CAD long position, which has been doing a whole lot of nothing here recently. But on the Forex side, I slightly favor the dollar. But, you know, it's also taken on a little bit of pressure here recently with the, some of our growth metrics a little bit lackluster. But from a pure price action standpoint, we're sitting at this level. We'll see if it can make a decisive move one way or the other. If you do get a breakout, and we always talk about, what happens if we're wrong with this idea? If you get a big failure on the dollar index, a lot of those currencies may have a little bit deeper retracements in what has been longer term downtrends, euro dollar, pound dollar is what I'm speaking about. Specifically, of course, the opposite for things like dollar CAD, dollar yen, dollar Swiss. But, we'll see if there's any further pullbacks in the dollar index. We've mostly been chopping around and consolidating going back since November. So really, not a huge move in either direction. But that brings me to a really interesting next segment, which is, of course, metals. I have a really strong opinion right now. I really like metals to the upside on a fundamentals base. I could be dead wrong about that. And 2 weeks from now, I'll act like it never happened. And if you guys are doing the show without me, it's because I'm crying. But if metals do see a weaker dollar, in theory, that could also be positive for gold and silver. However, throwing that theory out the window, gold and silver have done pretty well despite a pretty strong dollar. So I'm curious if that relative strength is also attractive to you guys. Marco, what do you think about gold, silver, metals in general? Any interest there?
So let me just open it up on the daily chart. I mean, gold is looking great. I just don't see any signs of stopping on this daily chart. It looks extremely bullish. So basically, it's kind of repeating this uptrend. Yeah, we had a big correction, but now we have just broken out of this all-time high and are just crushing higher. So yeah, I don't see any technical signs of stopping for this chart. Silver is not as strong, but it's definitely following with a little bit of bullish momentum. It looks a bit more corrective, to be honest, on this daily chart. The candles look a bit worse, just the structure. So gold would be my favorite, and it is very, very bullish. So I wouldn't be a seller in this market for sure. Just it looks so strong, and you definitely don't want to be on the other side of this uptrend when the markets look like this, and when, let's say, there's so much momentum behind it.
Yeah, I mean, great point. And that right there, that chart, gold has been the killer for a lot of traders right now, because you guys, we've talked about this 17,000 times on this live stream together. When a chart looks like that, you guys know as well as I do what people are out there doing. They're shorting this thing every time it hits a new high, and they're blowing accounts. I mean, it is something that we see over and over and over in the trading space, is people just fight trends. And I had a commenter once say, it has stuck with me since, it's like the first thing you learn as a trader, like anywhere, any textbook, any read, is like follow the trend. And somehow traders typically do not do that. They don't follow trends, they fight them. So I'm curious also, Miko, what are your thoughts on metals? Gold, silver. I like silver. I have a long position, so I'm a little bit biased here, but gold also looks really strong. What are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, they still look very, very bullish to me. And I really like silver because silver's still got that kind of motivation to keep. I mean, so does gold, but I like it because gold's at all-time high, so it's kind of doing its job very well. Well, silver is lagging behind, so I kind of like that opportunity there for silver. At the moment, there's a bit of resistance here, so that might be causing a bit of friction there for silver, but I do have some nice areas of confidence just below where we're trading. So I'm looking to see if I can get a slightly deeper pullback for silver for some entries around 31.1. And that's what I'm looking to see if I can find a trade, or if we're just very bullish and we break the high, then I'll look to see if I can find the next pullback afterwards, just because we've got a bit of noise there, which price is rejecting, and it did pretty well on Friday as well. But in terms of the direction, still very bullish. Gold's very bullish as well. I think gold's really nice to trade in like more like an hourly chart, maybe 30-minute chart, just trying to find those dips. On the full hour, it's not really providing that. I mean, depends how you're going to look to trade it, but the risk reward back to the high is going to be a little bit tricky. But if you can find some entries on the hourly chart, there's been multiple dips here, and gold's still looking like it's probably going to push back to the highs there. So eventually we're probably going to see a bigger pullback for gold. It's not going to keep going forever, but in terms of the general trend, it's still very much up, so I'd only be looking for buys.
Yeah, I did something on my channel a while ago, and just because gold is so interesting, I just want to maybe show this to everybody. So if we go back, what am I looking for? I'm looking back over here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a chart that is crazy. We're going to look at the 12-month chart. So this is yearly bars for gold. And the reason I bring this up is that it is not a new thing. There are going to be people every single day on our live streams, on our YouTube videos, on you guys' channel, on my channel, who say this is ridiculous. Gold has got to pull back. And you might say, this looks absolutely insane. It's going to crash. But let me show you what it looked like back here. This is crazy. Look at this. Look, it looks the same. And what happened? Boom, boom, boom. Years of just massive gains. So I'm not saying that gold can't have a pullback and maybe shoot lower, but this is the ultimate don't fight the trend concept. Here's a yearly chart of gold. And when it has these big up moves, what's interesting here is if I was to take the dumbest mindset ever, what is your confirmation that gold is actually going to be bearish? When you have a bearish year. Look at this. When you have a full bearish year, you get another bearish year. When you get a full bearish year, you have another bearish year. But if you get a bullish year, it is incredibly likely on this chart that you get another one to follow. So the second we sort of just humble ourselves and say, look, we don't know where the top of gold is. Gold could be go to 3,500 an ounce this year. Probably for the better for us. Again, I'm not saying go out there and just full port leverage your longs and get into gold. I'm just saying the second we humble ourselves and say we don't know how far this thing can run, and they print $1 bajillion a day out there, it makes sense that gold continues to drift higher. Now, silver, I wish it got the same kind of love. And maybe, to your point, Miko, maybe it's going to start. Maybe we're going to see silver have that fabled catch-up trade that, you and I have been talking about it for a few years, but there's been people who have been talking about it for decades. People who in the crypto or in the metals space believe that silver is severely undervalued on a long-term basis and that maybe it has this ginormous catch-up. We'll see. Again, that's just as foolish, in my opinion, to make massive predictions like that as it is to try and call a top. But the trend is where I kind of draw the line. It's like the trend is up. Let's just trade in the direction of the trend and not try and get smart and not, be too arrogant about it. But anyways, that's my thoughts on metals. Really important topic there today.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what's your fundamental play on silver? I get the technical one, but what's your fundamental? Is it edge finder? And
yes.
Okay, cool.
So it's getting a bullish reading, but that doesn't mean a whole lot unless you kind of understand the core. So I'll just keep it really simple because I don't want to take up too much time. I know we got to keep going through charts. Really simple. A lot of our economic growth figures like PMIs are missing expectations. Growth. Now, there's still good growth in the U.S. economy. Now, of course, the U.S. economy is like the bulk of the world's, it's centric to the whole world. So we could look also at UK and look at Europe, and that it would be worthwhile doing. In fact, if we did that, these are also showing a lot of red. But my point here is that we're seeing cooling in the growth departments compared to forecast. That makes stocks look a little less attractive, crypto a little less attractive if you're getting less growth, because then people start looking for alternatives and safe havens like gold and silver. So, I think it offers an alternative to traditional stocks, which, we've been talking about this together, keeping it technical focused for a second. We've talked about how, for a while we've had stocks just hitting every single, week, it seems like, new all-time highs. And I'm not a bear on that, but at some point we know, like, okay, maybe to Miko's point about silver, maybe there's a catch-up trade here. Maybe metals as a whole have a catch-up couple of years. These trends can take place over years. We're talking about, like, when we talk about daily charts and 4-hour charts. We could be talking about years of metals having a run and taking a turn over indices. So right now, I don't predict that kind of stuff. I just look at what we're looking at. We're getting cooling economic data, inflation that's not going away. I like metals in that environment. So understanding the environment is really, really important for me as a fundamentalist, but from even a technical traders like you guys who focus very heavily on that, we can kind of see some of that. Metals are breaking out. Meanwhile, look at NASDAQ. There's not the same, kind of clear-cut moves in this. Speaking of these, are you guys seeing the same? We'll go same question to you guys. Marco, real quick, what are your thoughts on indices? Are these choppy, or is there any of them that are moving nice?
Yeah, indices are not that interesting currently. Gold is much more interesting. S&P 500 just seems to be very flat in terms of technicals on this daily chart, very corrective. Nasdaq is probably going to be doing the same thing, so just being very flat. Does that mean I'm bearish? No, I'm still very bullish because we have this key. I would say, trend line going through right here. And that is exactly how the indices like to move. They like to move in these channel formations. So as long as this lower trend line gets respected, even this can happen. I mean, we can pierce through it and then close above. A big, let's say, warning sign would be a fat red candle on the daily, and then a second one following it down like this. That would be a big bearish sign in my personal opinion. But if we just pierce it by one candle and then retrace, that's no biggie. So still very bullish, but we're pausing here a little bit. And personally, I'm not concerned. Just by the technicals, fundamentals may be a different story, but the technicals have still not broken the key level with a lot of bearish momentum. So I have to be bullish.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Miko, what about yourself? Are you looking at any indices, or if you are to look at them, how do you feel about them?
Yeah, still pretty much the same outlook as Marco. Everything is very, very bullish. Although we are getting some very choppy price action right now. US 30 consolidating there. If I go take a look at the NAS, we are consolidating here as well. And of course, S&P, we are not really going anywhere as well. But of course, if we expand and look at the higher time frames, there's of course one direction. So still bullish, expecting price to continue. In terms of actually finding opportunities, I would wait for some breakouts really, especially if you're looking for momentum and you want to try and follow momentum, because there just isn't really much right now, at least intraday anyway. I would wait to see if price can start breaking through some highs. This is S&P 500. If you can start taking out some of these highs and looking for some pullbacks afterwards, there could be some really nice long opportunities on the 4-hour chart, or even intraday, or at least lower time frames anyway. So still bullish overall, not really seeing any opportunities to trade them now, unless maybe they come back down to the lower end of the range and you find some longs at the lower end, which would make sense. You can get some nice stops and some decent risk reward plays. But I think the better move, or at least a nice move if you're looking for a short-term move, is waiting for a breakout and looking to follow that.
Did you know we do a live trading show Monday through Friday with guests from all over the world? To get notified when we go live, click the bell button next to the subscribe button, or check in at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have helpful, free content in the description below and on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you tomorrow.